From left to right, the little videos along the bottom are a wheatear, some reindeer and some eider ducks. Welcome to my wildlife watching vlog about my trip to Norway in summer 2017. I think this is a bit of a funny vlog because compared to usual, I'm not going to talk very much because there's a lot of video clips here with birds singing, for example, and I don't like to talk. My general rule is not to talk over that. There's a lot of video clips where I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, Norway, there is a line of mountains all the way up called the ScanDS, which I think is a bit of a pun based on the Andes and Scandinavia, which has a lot of Arctic habitat. Right on the south is Hardangervidda, and for example that's where I saw this Dotterel, and also where I saw this Golden Plover. In the winter, the ScanDS are covered in snow, which means that in the summer when the snow melts, it's an opportunity for example, migrating birds to fly up and take advantage of this seasonal food supply with not very many resident animals. So, which is the reason we've got things like Dotterel and Golden Plover nesting. Anyway, let's move on. This is the Gold Plateau. I've got up very early, about 2 o'clock in the morning, hence the sunrise photograph and the mist in the morning. I saw a tawny owl and a short-eared owl, which I think was probably a reward for getting up early. Here's the short-eared owl that I got a prolonged view of, and it's hunting over a kind of marshy area. If you don't live in a sort of Arctic area, which the majority of the world's population don't, you may well see lots of waders, for example golden plovers, in the winter. And that's the reason. Oh, pause. This is a Brambling. Yeah, and that's the reason that you might recognise the, for example, golden plover. Golden plover seen all over kind of muddy estuaries and coastal areas around the equator, and even a long way away from the equator when it's the winter in the Arctic. Okay, oh, and that was 2 elk, by the way. So now let's go on to Ronda. I think Norway for me is my favourite place to go wildlife watching in Scandinavia, just because it has the coastal areas, which adds so much more wildlife variety. I went for a walk on the island of Runde for a day. It's kind of like a giant hill. I hiked up, and one of the first things I saw, birds I saw, was this giant, great skua, and also this white-tailed eagle. The great skua nests and then kind of scavenges and will steal food from other animals, and kept coming and buzzing me on the path. I guess just checking whether I dropped any food and whether it thought I'd be an easy target to steal food from. Here's a view with some cottongrass, and now here's a gannet colony. The footpath goes really close to the cliff edge, which is where I took these 2 video clips from. A local was telling me that about 50 years ago there weren't any gannets, and the gannet population here has since grown to about at least 5,000, I think, ish in the summer. And meantime, other nesting seabirds have decreased in numbers, and it's thought that maybe this is due to the temperature rise in the sea, meaning some of the plankton are now feeding lower down, which changes where the fish are, which makes it harder for some birds to fish. Oh, and these are 2 puffins. They just sat there with fish. I don't know why. Feel free to comment in the comments section of the video if there is one, if you've got any ideas. They were there when I arrived, and I moved on quite quickly, so I don't think I was disturbing them, but yeah, anyway. They were just sat there chilling out. On to Dovre. Another place along the ScanDS, along this mountain range along the centre. Here's a view of Fox Dumera. It's a wetland nature reserve. If you're into bird watching, it's fairly well known. I've seen it mentioned in very old bird watching books. For example, I got this good view of a yellow wagtail. Not a wagtail. If you look very carefully, there's an elk and a baby elk running through the marsh here. I looked it up in my mammal book, and baby elk are supposed to be that kind of rich chestnut colour. You could speculate on why. Maybe it's so that the parent can see it. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting chat. I can normally come up with speculations about why. Oh, anyway, I'll daydream about it while I listen to this blue throat. This is a wood sandpiper, and just from the right angle you can see its nostril. And here's another elk that I saw. I'm stretching here, but another possible theory I can think of is young animals often look cute, and it's been observed that animals of different species of animals will still look after babies of other species, being partly triggered by their cuteness maybe. So maybe it's also just to kind of create that kind of youthful look so that it's more likely to get looked after. Who knows? I'm struggling. Okay. Also at Dovre there is a Musk Ox Walk. I'm calling it Musk Ox Walk. That's what it's called on my website in my blog. By the way, check out my blog if you want to find out more about this. So in the distance on the mountainside are some muskox. You can just see them. I'm going to zoom in. I was trying really hard to hold the camera still in the wind on maximum zoom, and you can just about see them. And we know there's muskox around because earlier we just saw a photo of the muskox poo. So, Norway, wildlife watching, a lot of it's about the ScanDS, and then as you go even higher, all the way towards Hardangervidda, you've got similar habitats that you had on the mountains, but just because it's so far north. We're going to be at Hardangervidda in a minute, but meanwhile, here's another stopping off point on my trip where I went to, I don't know how to say this, Bogfel. It's another high bit of the mountains. Here's an example of the sort of view at the top. This is a wheat ear. Followed by a wood sandpiper. Arguably you could go hiking or walking or wildlife watching anywhere you like along the ScanDS, but I was picking places that I went up where there were very convenient footpaths. Hardangervidda, I started sort of bottom left, worked my way up, and this is what the route the photos take, and you can see where they pop out the map where they were taken. This is just a general photo of the view, what the Arctic habitat here looks like. Here's a group of eider ducks. I'm guessing they're probably not flying because they're molting. For bird watchers, pretty characteristic Arctic bird, definitely expect to see it here. This is a red-necked phalarope, yet another one feeding in amongst bog bean, yet another one of these waders. So again, you might recognise this if they happen to overwinter near you, because where the majority of the human population is where waders tend to spend their winter, before then disappearing to the Arctic north for the summer. I chanced on these reindeer as I walked around a corner, and we kind of surprised each other and they ran off a bit. I had two clips, one of them just grazing and one of them kind of running and then grazing, and I thought the running clip was a bit more interesting, so I've used that for this vlog. And then to finish off, more coastal activity, showing again why Norway adds so much to a wildlife watching interest if you're on holiday here. These are black guillemots. And we'll finish off with a couple of clips of the kittiwake colony at Ekeroi. Thanks for watching. As usual, loads more information about everything that I've talked about here and shown pictures of on my blog. Link will be in the description or whatever.